we'll see shortly if they do bring out that red. It is game number 1, Oldness Strikes versus Reload Esports.
Yeah, I mean, this should be an interesting one, and it looks like... Whoa. Okay. Oldness Strikes, they're going to be locking in what we thought, which is that Ret Warrior Resto Shaman, and then Reload Esports, they are going to be mixing it up. Mercy going back on the Warlock and Valet on the Shadow Priest, so playing a bit of a Rot and Dot specialization here. Composition is Reload Esports. We'll have to see if it ends up working out for them. I feel like if there was a composition you probably would not Rot, it was be Ret Warrior Shaman, so I'm not sure if this was a great pick.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but Mercy, back on his main here, you know, we've been seeing him on that Warrior all tournament long, but now he's going to be on that Warlock. He gets a nice Howl of Terror here onto Kara. Kara now gets dispelled into a Hammer of Justice. Tana with a nice silence as well. Delay, getting a lot of damage here with that Power Infusion. Actually, surprising amount here of rot damage onto everybody. Kara rotting down slowly, Tana rotting down slowly, but as soon as they catch Mercy on that Warlock, he is going to be in a world of trouble here. He needs to make sure that he is always kiting, and kiting.
He's doing a good job so far. He's got Dark Lair, Dark Soul out. This is going to be a big momentum swing for the Warlock, and Resto Shaman actually does struggle a lot to heal through damage over time effects, so I think that they locked the Affliction Warlock as like a mini counter to the Restoration Shaman that they knew Tana had to play on this roster, and you can see that it's working out well, unlike the Holy Paladin that doesn't really care about dots. But Valet now getting swapped to and just dropped, didn't trade cooldowns, got one tapped, had everything available. Didn't press
he actually died through Blessing of Protection. So they used Blessing of Protection, and he died from 30% through Blessing of Protection. So, I mean, they did try to trade something, but the Ret Paladin said, yep, I don't care, goodbye. And I think it's kind of funny that they spent so much time going after the Warlock, they couldn't catch him, and then just look at the Priest for a second, and then evaporated him.
All right, well, Oldness Strikes starting off the morning with a bang, currently up 1-0 versus Reload Esports here. Is that something that you think they're going to be able to repeat here? Here's the replay as well from the first game.
All right, so here we got Mercy just doing a good job kiting. He's got the Blessing of Freedom, Nerd Rage, deciding, okay, well, let's go after this Priest. We're not going to reach the Warlock. The Warlock activates his Dark Soul. He's trying to pump out big damage here. And there's some decent fears there onto Kara, but now he finally gets out. Villet wanted to gate right there. He gets Storm Bolted, and there is the Shadow Fury. So he thought, okay, I got a false sense of security there from the Shadow Fury, but he gets trinketed by Kara, and then he's just, he's the victim of that red damage right there. And actually, they were losing on mana as well. I don't know how significant that was, but Lontar was slightly behind of Tana in terms of mana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunate to see Valet go down there. A bit of a Shadow Priest legend in the European realm, so kind of unfortunate we didn't get to really see that composition play out for them. Do you think this is going to be something that they try again, then, with Valet on that Shadow Priest?
Well, I would say they knew exactly what Oldness Strikes was going to run, and they picked that composition as a counter. So if they go in and they pick a large map, and once again, we see the side of Oldness Strikes lock in that same composition, I think Reload Esports might try the same matchup. It's just like you said, I mean, it's just one of those things where you have a composition, you think it's going to work, and then you kind of just get unlucky, you get crit on really, really hard, die through Blessing of Protection, and you kind of just misread the situation a little bit, because it did seem like it was actually working out for them a little bit. So I would like for them to try it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've kind of been seeing a lot of that as well, just these like one-shot deaths. What can we attribute this to, Super Ds? Is it these players kind of getting used to like the pacing of being on a tournament realm, or what are we seeing here?
Well, there's old cooldowns and new cooldowns. So against a Paladin, usually you're worried when Avenging Wrath is up, so if they sprout wings, you're worried and you're afraid. But there are other cooldowns like Seraphim that are a little bit more invisible, which you activate every 45 seconds and you gain a lot of your base stats. This is scaling with the Divine Toll Pelagos conduit. Now I'm getting like really specific. So when you Divine Toll, you get a bunch of mastery. Then that mastery is scaled by your Seraphim. So now all your holy damage is just as scary as it is during wings, but it's a little bit more invisible. And you might be looking at the Paladin like, he didn't press wings, or they didn't press wings. I don't need to disperse, right? But he pressed Divine Toll. He got that mastery buff. He probably had Seraphim. So he was just as threatening, and they needed to trade something, and they under-responded. So as players adjust to those new cooldown icons, I think that they'll be like, oh, that's when I trade. That made sense. I died there because Divine Toll and Seraphim, and I needed to press Dispersion in that instance and use something else later on for Avenging Wrath. But yeah, so readjusting to the new icons, getting used to Ret Paladins having more than just one threat. But obviously Ret Paladins do a lot of damage and a lot of healing at the moment. But if you make the fair trades, I think that this comp will work for Reload Esports.
Yeah, and also, unfortunately, they don't really have a lot of time to get used to the new pacing here, especially on that tournament realm. They only have 4 cups, including this one, to make it up into that circuit series later on in the season. And these guys are in the lower bracket, so loser of this series is unfortunately knocked out of the tournament, and that's going to be less points for them. But we've got both compositions here out on the board, picked by both teams, going to be going to Tolveron. Reload Esports opting to choose that Warlock Shadow Priest composition once again. Zico, do you feel like they're going to have a better chance now that they're on Tolveron?
Oh yeah, for sure. Tolveron is going to be great for them, but I'm not sold on this composition. I feel like maybe, well, we only have that one game to go after, and it was kind of an unfortunate ending there. But I feel like Reload picked this because they don't want to mirror Oldness strikes, and I don't think they have another option that's as good. Because I feel like you don't want to mirror Nerd Rage on Warrior with an alt warrior on your team, because he's definitely going to outclass most warrior mains even. So I think this is kind of maybe an experiment here, but for sure Tolveron is going to be very helpful with that Warlock Legendary that slows everybody. You're going to have freedom, you're going to have tons of room to move around with, but I also feel like Tana is going to be able to sit down and drink whenever he wants to. Kara can just kind of sit back and throw out some Word of Glories and just line of sight, or even just hard somebody and get a lot of burst. And that's going to give Tana a lot of time to just sit back and drink and make sure he's ready for the late game.
Mm-hmm. All right, here going into Tolveron game number 2. Reload Esports currently looking to tie it up here. It is Oldness Strikes versus Reload Esports 1-0.
Well, let's see what they can get done here. I think, obviously, so from my personal experience against Ret Warrior on a balanced druid, is if they're attacking you, you're dead. So you have to kite and avoid damage basically the entire game. You have to always be ahead of them and trying to outrun them, and that should be the main goal. Mercy was obviously doing a really excellent job of that, so much so that they gave up hitting him and attacked the Shadow Priest. So I want to see cooldowns traded effectively on Valet and kind of the same sort of kiting tactics. Play and anticipate the damage a little bit ahead of time, and I think they'll be able to pull this off. Kara, Tana, and Nerd Rage are running in. I think Mind Games, Hammer of Justice actually needs to go into Kara. He's a better healer than Tana on that Restoration Shaman for this type of damage. So if you Mind Games the Word of Glory, you Hammer of Justice the Word of Glory, you'd be good. But we see that Divine Toll right off the bat, cleaving 3 members of Reload Esports. They respond appropriately, though, using the Demonic Gateway to escape out into midfield. They swap to Valet. Valet greater fades. Good trade on that Spear of Bastion. However, now the fade's over, so they're going to stun Kara with Psychic Horror, try and slow down his advance. Really good rot pressure from Mercy. They've left that Warlock open. Look at this damage right now. Tana in a silence gets Sanctuaried out. No, he's actually just going to have to sit the full silence down to half, has Ascendance available. He's playing it patiently and kind of greedy, not popping that Ascendance immediately on the Dark Soul, but it looks like he's going to make it out alive. Mercy on the back foot. Lone Tar trading Sacrifice to restabilize. Like I said, if the Warrior and Ret are connecting, you basically have to have a cooldown up. So I like Lone Tar just anticipating that ahead of time with the Sacrifice, but he needs to get ready. Kara's in pursuit. Mercy is on top of his port, gets life gripped away from his port, and now he can use that Body and Soul sprint, it looks like, from the Power Word Shield of Valet. Is Valet actually running Body and Soul? That's pretty risky. His Dispersion is a very long cooldown. If he does that, he is.
Yeah, I guess he's willing to risk it at this point. He did use the Dispersion, so Kara, once again, and Nerd Rage, they're opting, hey, this Warlock appears to be very slippery. He's got the Demonic Circle, he's got the Gateway, he's getting Life Grip, he's getting Freedom, everybody's snared. Warlock actually has a lot of mobility to survive. The one thing for Reload Esports they really have to be careful of, and the one thing that's difficult for them in this matchup, is they have to kind of just rot everyone down. They have to play an incredibly good job. They have to do an incredibly good job defensively to stay alive. And meanwhile, they have to avoid the one-shots from Oldness Strikes. So Oldness Strikes, they just have to stay up on a target. If they can for long enough, they can just absolutely obliterate them like we saw in game number 1. And that really is the scary thing here for Reload Esports. If they don't play well defensively, this matchup could be an absolute nightmare for them. And you could see a preemptive Blessing of Protection as Valet is still getting chopped up here.
Oh, this could be a scary moment here. Lontar is going to need to do some big heals here. And Mercy, whenever he's left up, he does a lot of damage here. He needs to make sure that the pressure is happening. Nice setup here, coming out from Reload Esports to get the silence. They get the Psychic Horror onto Kara, but now Villet in a lot of trouble here. Activates the Greater Fade right there. Gets stunned on it. Sacrifice is going to come out there by Lontar. And Delay with that long dispersion cooldown. Had to use it early on in the match, and it's still 45 seconds away. It's not going to look too good for him in the next couple of seconds here. No Greater Fade, no nothing basically. Mercy's just going to have to spam out those fears. Kara needs to just try to get on his target, and Mercy needs to basically just play goalkeeper at this point. Right now, they're actually going after Mercy here, trying to lock him down, but Villet, with a nice leap of faith, is going to keep him alive. They actually like that they're going after Villet more than Mercy. Mercy takes more damage, but Villet just is easier to stick to because he doesn't have that demonic circle and all those slows. He's also playing Venthyr over a Night Fae, whereas Mercy's playing that Night Fae, so he can blink around with that soul shape whenever he wants to, basically.
They have a really interesting build. So like Body and Soul, so the Powered Shield sprint to target. Lontar's playing a legendary where every time he spends Holy Power, it reduces the cooldown on Blessing of Freedom and Sacrifice and Blessing of Protection, so he can sprint his partners around. They're playing like a mobility dot cleave where they're just trying to run as fast as possible and get away from the Rep Paladin. It's an interesting strategy. I have to wait to see if it works out. Right now, they're targeting down Tana with heavy focus fire. They interrupt Kara. Tana's in trouble. Drops that Spirit Link Totem. They caught him out in midfield and forced a very important cooldown. If Lontar can maintain his mana, their pressure is substantial, but Villet is now getting targeted. He's going to use that Demonic Gateway, try and cross midfield and get out of there as soon as possible. Even Mercy running the Demonic Gateway honor talent so that the players can use the gateway more frequently, and it's a longer distance. So this is an entirely unique strategy. I've not seen a team focus all of their talents and legendaries into this heavy mobility, but it makes sense. Rep Paladins and Warriors, probably the lower mobility melee options. Enhancement Shamans are cringing at me right now, but they're definitely on the lower end of mobility. So if you can just outdo them in that arms race of mobility, it should work out for them. And I'm curious to see if it does.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this build, and so far it is looking pretty good. Lontar has burned through a little bit of mana here, but I think if things play out like this, Reload Esports will eventually win this game. But Oldness Strikes, they just need one opportunity where they can throw down the Spear of Bastion and have high uptime on a target, and they can take them down very, very quickly, like we saw in game number 1. So, have to be very careful. Tana right now in the open, getting swapped to. Big Drain Life coming in from Mercy. Let's see if Tana can escape. Looks like he will be able to get to the pillar, potentially throw out a Dispel on himself, but Villet, once again, with freedom, just sprinting around. Dispersion did get forced out there, but Nerd Rage and Kara are really struggling to find a target in this match that they can consistently sit on, and that really does come down to this build that they play. Reload Esports as well. Mercy, in particular, he's playing the Void Elf, so he has even more mobility by being a Void Elf, being able to use that racial. So it's intelligent decision, and this is a matchup you wouldn't think that the Shadow Priest Warlock could actually win, and maybe they won't. It's getting a little bit close there on Villet. Fade does come in. Villet's still just running around. Now on top of the gateway is going to be able to use that. And of course, one of the great things about Affliction Warlock this expansion is their new legendary that makes it so anytime they corruption, they put a snare, and that's why this build is so successful. If Mercy just puts his corruption on everyone, everyone is basically snared the entire game. Villet can purge off the freedoms that Kara is able to put up, and it just makes it really difficult for this cleave to stick on a target.
Oh, here we go. Big push onto Villet here. Lontar is going to have his work cut out for him. Villet right now in a very dangerous situation. He has nothing. Nice cap totem into Hammer of Justice. Villet might need to be very careful here. Couple of seconds left on that fade. Actually choosing to go aggressive here. Mercy now counter pressuring here with his Dark Soul as well. Villet activating that power infusion right there. Now he's going to have that greater fade rotating back up. Beautiful gateway right there. He's going to target Tana a little bit as well there with those dots. And now they can't really reach him anymore. He is also going to have that dispersion. So they're going to go after Mercy. Oh, they actually get the spear on the port right there. Mercy forced to use his unending resolve. He gets life grip there by Villet as well. But Nerdridge's all over him. Still nice pressure here by Nerdridge with that avatar active. Villet has no trinket as well. But he does have that void shift. His trinket is going to come up in about 10 seconds. Night Fae, Soul Shape coming out onto Tana. They get the silence there. And Nerd Rage gets erased right there. Did he dispel you away, or what was that?
I don't think he can dispel you away. But
Wait, no, yeah, he can. He's a warrior.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Valet was able to just get out a bunch of bursts there, and that's the thing. I mean, you're trying to go after this Warlock, such a slippery target. In the meantime, the Shadow Priest, if he can set it up with the big mind games, he can drop someone really, really quickly. And you got to give it up to Reload Esports, bringing in the Shadow Priest Warlock, making it work against this cleave. I didn't think it would work, but it seemed to do great.
Okay, so we got a replay here. Let's see. I actually didn't see that at all. I was just checking. Okay, he's kiting. He's looking good. So we got a Howl of Terror here. This is the Spear of Bastion that forced out the Unending Resolve. There's the grip. And now they're like Nerd is chasing after Mercy here. What does Kara do here? This is the big question right now. So Kara, he's sitting in that Hammer of Justice, and Belay, he's just pushing back here, getting the Shadow Ward Death, just doing a lot of damage. Kara had his trinket, had probably a Word of Glory. I feel like they still had a lot of response there, but just I guess a really surprising amount of burst from those Roth classes coming out.
All right, well, Reload Esports making it work, tying this up 1-1 in this best of 5 series here. They made it work in game number 2 on Tolvaron on the side of Reload Esports with that Warlock Shadow Priest. But the question is Skill Cap DU gonna choose a map that's able to counter this composition, Zico?
Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna go to a small map now. Probably gonna see like Hook Point or Dalaran Sewers or something come out in that next game, but I feel like the strategy was actually, it looked kind of good. Like they were just running around.
I'm gonna go Void Elf on my Priest and play with a Void Elf Lock. Night Fae Void Elf Warlock. Just infinity blinks.
Man, all right, well, that was a super good second match here. Now we're tied up 1-1. Game number 3 should be coming up shortly here. Skill Cap DU to choose their map pretty soon. Zico predicting they're going to choose a small map. And is it likely that they switch off this composition then, Ben? I mean, how well would Shadow Priest Warlock even work on a map such as Hook Point?
Not as well, that's for sure. I feel like if we go to Hook Point, this is not going to be something that they're going to want to lock in. And of course,
look at that.
It is going to be Hook Point. Yeah, would you look at that?
Yep.
Now Reload Esports are taking a bit of time trying to figure out what they want to do, but if they locked in the Shadow Priest Warlock here, I would be really surprised. I mean, maybe it could work, but I mean, it's just so small in comparison. They are going to try it, so going to that smaller map, still going to be able to implement and utilize a lot of that mobility, but it's going to be much easier on this map for Kara and Nerd Rage to sit on their target. Also, for Tana to throw in, purges on the freedoms, which is massive. If he can immediately purge off those freedoms, it becomes a lot more difficult for Valet and Mercy to kite. I mean, it's not an unwinnable matchup for Reload Esports, but definitely harder on this map.
Yeah, and it's something that we've seen pulled off before as well. And even on the last map, Supities, I didn't really feel like the melee classes on Oldness Strikes had much of a difficulty making that connection, increasing their uptime on Reload Esports. And I feel like now it's just going to be even easier. And it seems like it's going to be a difficult game here for Reload Esports.
I don't know. I actually feel like they have so much mobility that I think Valet should be more afraid. But if I'm Mercy with Port, long distance gateway, Night Fae blink, Void Elf blink, my Paladin's freedoming me, I get sprinted by my Priest. Like, I feel like if I'm Mercy, I'm kind of happy. I'm having fun. If I'm Valet, maybe I'm a little bit worried. But that's the threat, right? Having the Warlock there. If you attack Valet because he's easier to hit, the Warlock free casting is going to kill your whole team. So it's a bit of a clock there. Can you kill Valet? Because he's easier to hit, faster than Mercy kills all of you, and that's where the intensity is going to be built in this game.
This is where you kind of wish Nixie was like an enhancement shaman.
Yeah.
I feel like enhancement shaman, if you put an enhancement shaman with the warrior instead of a retribution paladin, it would decimate this comp. But they are going to once again lock in the same thing. Not too surprising, honestly, especially on the smaller map. They got a great shot in this one, but Reload Esports, you really can't count them out. And I mean, this isn't a matchup I've seen too often, and it seemed like it was actually going really well for them on the Grand. It just kind of randomly got gibbed, and then that was very convincing on that last map.
Why do you think this team decided to sort of hold off on playing this composition until today? I mean, this is the first time that we're seeing Valet sort of play here on Reload Esports so far this season, Zico.
They probably just figured that in this matchup, this is their best bet, and in the previous matchups, They had Mystic in there on the Rat. They had, Mercy on the Warrior, and it went pretty well for them so far. I mean, they were in upper semis, I'm pretty sure, when they lost, and that was a close series as well. So I feel like now is just an opportunity, I guess, going into this melee cleave. And I don't know, the first game was kind of a random give. The second game looked convincing, but I feel like the second game looks convincing partly because of the map. If Reload wins on a small map now at this comp, then I'm 100% convinced that, this comp is really good. This is a great answer.
Oh yeah, well, we'll see soon here if Reload Esports can win on a small map with this double caster composition. It's Oldness Strikes versus Reload Esports tied up 1-1.
And Nerd Rage also went Kyrian Warrior for that spear, and it worked out. It got the portal one time on the Warlock, so good to cancel out those mobility cooldowns that Reload Esports is trying to play around. I like that adaptation from Nerd Rage. Valet wants to position far away. Mercy also already has a gateway. Is he going to gate out of the spear? He does. Look how, even on a small map, that's still a pretty long distance. Now Mercy has options. He can Night Fae Blink, or he could get in range of his port and try and port. Right now he's just fearing Kara and line of sighting Nerd Rage, letting Valet poke them for free. Valet can even go after Tana. Now he's in a stun. He breaks out of the stun. Night Fae, Soul Shape. Oh, they overlap with Life Grip. They can't afford to overlap like that. They only have a limited number of mobility options. Nerd Rage is going to get a bit of uptime here on Mercy. Needs to get in a position where he can use that portal. He's going to portal, get sprinted with freedom right when he portals. So he's super fast. He's so fast, and they're slowed by the corruption. I like that timing on the freedom with the port, and look at the enemy team just getting decimated. This is where I want to see Hammer of Justice on Kara, mind games on Kara, like CC the Ret Paladin. Kara heals more than Tana, period. So put your crowd control on Kara, and then the rot damage will really start to sink in. I think if they start allocating it like that, they're going to build some momentum.
This is crazy. I mean, finally some uptime coming in from Nerd Rage and Kara. Like you said, that little bit of an overlap with the Soul Shape and the Life Grip.
He got pulled on it.
Spear of Bastion on his portal. Beautifully done there by Nerd Rage, but Mercy still manages to escape for a moment. But this is where it's really dangerous as a Warlock. You don't have freedom. You don't have any more mobility, and you are getting chopped up. Mercy's struggling in this moment. Does he have a gateway soon? He's sitting on top of his gateway, potentially looking for a Life Grip, and that gateway is just across the entire map. But guess what? Nerd Rage is back on top of target. Mercy's going to have to hold on a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that previous time when they got the spear, they actually Hammer of Justice Lontar. He had to use his human ratio to get out of that one and his sacrifice. So they're starting to get some cooldowns here. They already got the unending resolve as well. So on the smaller map, definitely getting a lot more uptime here. But also Valet here reigning supreme on that Shadow Priest right now, doing a lot of damage with that Void Form, doing tons of burst. Lontar now in a Hammer of Justice. If they can reach Mercy here, could be very, very scary. Kara lands the interrupt. Nerder is about to reconnect on his target, but I feel like Mercy now has his Night Fae Blink, he's got his gateway, he's got his port, he's got everything he needs. He resummons his pet right there, and there's the Spear of Bastion. Here we go. Here comes the damage. Tana in a counterspell. Valet looking to set up a Psychic Scream, and here we go. Valet now also launching big burst damage. There's the offensive Blessing of Protection. Big damage here onto Tana. Tana gonna use the Trinket Ascendance and his Shield Wall ability right there. Now Kara chasing after him here with his wings active as well. Lontar's gonna have to do some serious work here. Nice grip there by Valet. He's gonna keep Mercy all the way on the opposite side of the map once again, and the raw pressure is looking great so far for Reload Esports.
Oh, a swap over to Valet. Valet's not nearly as slippery as that Warlock, already down to half health, trying to avoid damage. And it looks like they're even swapping to Lontar on the small map. That could be an option for them. Just hit whatever's nearby. Mana is even between the teams here. Definitely more pressure overall. Maybe an even amount of pressure actually between the teams. 3 minutes in. I feel like Mercy's been under fire. 10 has been under fire. It's back and forth. It's still anyone's game. What you don't actually want to see is Oldness Strikes because you picked the small map to try and get an advantage. So if it's looking even on your advantaged map, that's bad news. Kara's going to Sanctuary the Hammer of Justice here. Finally, I see Reload Esports getting some crowd control. It feels like they were just only focused on moving around the map and not getting crowd control. They need to balance both, and if they can, they'll find victory here. But there's the Spear Bastion. Mercy is pinned down. Lots of damage. Lontar's trying to recover. Life grip from Valet, waiting for that spear. Kara in pursuit with Nerd Rage, Blade storming at the target. Now switching to Valet. They're not going to chase after that Night Fae Warlock any longer. Valet's got Void Elf, though, so if he's got his little image slipping away in any moment, he might be able to teleport. I'm not sure if he can tank this for too long. It's going to cost a lot of mana. He's interrupted on Vampiric Touch, but Mercy is left open. Nerd Rage doesn't want that. He's going to charge over. Kara freedoming in. Stormbolt, connect. They stun Nerd Rage. They peel him off of Mercy. Howl of Terror out. I like the crowd control engagement here from Reload Esports. Dark Glare is up. Power Infusion. That's a double Power Infusion. 2 targets with a ton of haste. Dive of the Sword forced out on a Nerd Rage. Tana in the Hammer of Justice. No Sanctuary available. Everybody rotten down. Kara trying to support the team, tossing out some Word of Glories and begins to recover, but Dark Soul is still available. Mercy at any moment can pull the trigger on that. Lone Tar and Hammer of Justice, though. Mercy trying to focus on surviving. He's caught in a Stormbolt. Big hit there. Nice bop on the spear. Mercy going to Soul Shape away. Now they swap over to Valet, trying to keep them on the back foot. But Mercy, he's open. He's getting a lot of unstable afflictions. He's got Dark Soul. Mercy could pull the trigger on this whenever he wants. Maybe Portal, go for a Gateway Dark Soul. There's the Warbreaker. He ports the Sharpened Blade. Freedom sprint away from the Sharpened Blade. Mercy doing whatever he can to avoid the damage here. Try to deter them from hitting him so he can get that Dark Soul off.
Whoa.
They have silence. They've got the stuns. They just need to engage.
They get the dispersion. I mean, they literally look at Valet for a second. He's forced to use the dispersion. Mercy doing a great job with this mobility. This entire team is doing a great job with this composition. Now you see Nerd Rage getting rotted down. Hammer of Justice on Tana. Tara's going to have to back him up a little bit. The Blessing of Sanctuary does come in. Oldness Strikes is able to stabilize. And I feel like because Tana can kind of stay a lot closer to Kara in this match, it's not nearly as scary for him as on Pulveron. He was constantly split up from his team, but still, this rot pressure from Reload Esports is immense. Tana's burning through a lot of mana, but still not too far behind compared to Lone Tar, and I feel like it's really unlikely either one of these healers is really going to get to drink. Mercy gets bursted. Gateway comes in. He's able to cross the map to safety. Kara and Nerd Rage now going after Valet, and Valet still no dispersion for quite some time. This is a nice swap from Kara and Nerd Rage. Valet has to be very careful. If they can get the sacrifice from Lone Tar, that would be massive. Hammer of Justice on Lone Tar. He's going to use his Trinket, the Gladiator's Medallion, to break out of that. Continue the heals on his team, and unfortunately that swap to Valet. I mean, I guess it did get the Gladiator's Medallion, but not able to get too much more.
And Mercy taking a lot of damage right now. There's the Void Shift coming out from Belay, and now he's trying to counter pressure with that Power Infusion. Tana responding there with the Ascendance. And Tana's mana is not looking great. Now Nerd Rage taking huge damage right there, but the Ascendance is active. Should be enough to keep him alive. Belay now casting Shadow right here. A little bit scary for him. Won't be able to use that Greater Fate. If he gets locked here, takes a kick right there to the face. And now Kara with the wings doing a lot of damage. There's the Blessing of Protection coming out. Lone Tar does not want to be risking that one at all. And Mercy gonna have his cooldowns rotating back up kind of shortly here, 20 more seconds or so. So Valet right now looking like the main target, taking huge damage, gating away to safety. Is it going to be enough? Do they have the damage? The spear comes out. Nerd Rage, one execute. He's going to take him down.
All right, Oldness Strikes winning game number 3 here, 2-1 now on match point for this next upcoming game. They were looking pretty good on the side of Reload Esports. It looked like they almost got that composition to work, but in the end, it just wasn't quite enough now. And now these guys are really feeling the pressure, Super D's.
I still feel like they misplayed that at the end. I feel like Valacia he cast Door of Shadows here on the replay like 8 times trying to get away. He could have just walked to the gate. I'm pretty sure he can use gate right now. He hasn't used it, but he just kept casting Door over and over and over. And then they bop him after he gets kicked twice. Like he gets kicked here. Why not just bop him here? And then he tries to cast again, and then he gets kicked again, and then he gets bopped. It's like, great, I can't do anything. I'm bopped and I'm kicked. And then he could move to the gateway, but he just wants to tank them. Again, it's because you kind of feel comfortably, like, I'm bopped, I'm safe, I can be here. Then he starts moving to the gate, but then he's already too low. He gates. Lone Tar doesn't have many cooldowns. Bubbles crowd control. It's just unrecoverable at that point. I feel like the end of that game just unraveled. They needed to just start moving away, not try to attack
So you
right
think
at
they
that
just
moment.
didn't move? Valet didn't move out of the way close enough. He just held on too long.
It's really hard to gauge, like, because you're thinking like, oh, it's our turn. Well, I'm going to attack, and it's like, no.
Right.
If the Ret and the Warrior are in melee range of you, you're dead. So you need to be out of melee range. Like as soon if they're both on you, you are dead. I just feel like they could have managed it better and avoided getting interrupted twice. Like Valet just got taken out of the game for 20 seconds, and that could have been avoided.
Well, he
Give him
also
that.
used his fade there in that bop, and then he instantly cast
Yeah,
it, which
that was-
removes the fade. I feel like if he just held on to the fade after the bop, you could have gated and then faded, and probably bought enough time to get that dispersed too. It was like 10 seconds away.
I think so. Yeah, it was off
That-
cooldown after he died. So it's
I feel like
definitely a
that's the
mismanagement.
That's the tricky thing about this matchup, though, is they have to not mess up their. Basically, they have to rotate perfectly. If they ever make a mistake
Yeah.
and Oldness Strikes capitalizes on that mistake, they instantly lose. And for Reload Esports, it's a rot, it's a dot. You put up your dots, you maybe by some miracle Valet can take someone down, but that is a big if. You're playing the mana bar, you're playing the long game, and if you mess up at all during that long game, you can get taken down. So definitely a really scary matchup for them. And Oldness Strikes winning on game number 1, honestly, I feel like this series is looking really good for them because they can always go back to another small map, which is going to make it really difficult for Reload Esports to actually pull off 2 wins in a row.
Yeah, it certainly will. I mean, they were looking pretty solid on that. I mean, you guys saw Nerd Rage almost go down just a few times. So I definitely wonder if they're going to decide to play this composition again. It is their map choice, so they do have the option of going to a larger map that will play into the caster composition just a little bit better here. So we'll see shortly what they do decide to do. But what do you think Super T is do? Do you think they need to switch it up, or are they going to try this once more?
You definitely go big map and play the same thing. That comp, I feel like if you play it perfectly, should win. If you're anticipating and moving away all the time and using your mobility cooldowns, I feel like it should win. It's specifically because it's a Resto Shaman. If they were Holy Paladin Ret Warrior, I would say get off this. There's no way. You're not going to do enough damage through the Holy Paladin to make it work, but it's specifically because it's a Shaman. If they get more crowd control in the Ret Pally, like stun Ret Paladin, stun healer, more coordination like that, then they'll have more windows to win before the deep dampening and maybe get Kara afraid and force them off with damage. So if just flipping between a little bit more of coordinated crowd control on top of the mobility. I mean, it's a lot of mobility, and this might be something that they're not used to because like Warlock didn't have Portal in Battle for Azeroth. So now Mercy needs to get used to having Portal and then get used to having Night Fade Blink and get like, you play a Warlock, you went from literally just being a stick in the mud stuck in one spot to like, oh my God, like I have 6 things I could blink right now. And you've got to like, is that the right one? Did I blink the right way? I could door here. Should I fade now? Do I gate over? Like, you have to figure that out in the game against a team that's just going to kill you in 2 seconds when they're in range. So if you mismanage it, they catch you. If you don't use it, they just kill you. And then if you use it perfectly, you win. If they can figure it out, I feel like this is a comp that could do wonders for them, though, specifically in a matchup like this into a Shaman healer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure that no matter what happens at the end of this series, that's probably something we're going to see again. You know, Mercy and Valet and Lone Tar, well, of course, and Mystic as well, all super powerful players here, but I'm loving this composition from Reload Esports. But we are going to go to Empyrean Domain here, the new map of Shadowlands here. We've seen it picked quite a lot. Seems to be favored over Ashmane's Fall. I could be wrong. I'd love to see the statistical data on that one. But it is game number 4. Oldness Strikes on match point versus Reload Esports.
I think you're right. I think what I said yesterday might be true, where this is now the new second favorite to these wizard compositions. I mean, there's just so much open space. That being said, there are some conveniently placed pillars for, Tana, Kara, Nerd Rage to retreat to if they need to, but lots of open space on Imperium Domain, and it seems like this is kind of the new go-to outside Tolvaron Arena instead of Ashmane's Fall. But Kara and Nerd Rage, they're going to be starting off on Valet very early. Gateway is actually positioned across the entire map, and I don't know how much I like this because if Mercy has to gate, look at where Lone Tar is. He is so far away. He gets caught. He's going to take a long time to actually reconnect to Mercy, but beautiful demonic circle, and you can see Mercy, look at him sprinting with the body and soul, portaling away, and now it's up to Mercy to get out as much damage as possible as they go after Valet, and Valet's going to have to do a really good job managing all that mobility to keep himself alive.
Yeah, and that's a gateway out of the way for Valet, and now he's casting out those mind games, looking for some damage. Mercy already forced to run away here with his trinket and that soul shape. He's now in portal range, so he's going to be able to port and then gate. And of course, Kara and Nerd Rage, realizing this, they're going to go after Valet here instead. He still has that gateway debuff, so Valet, not sure why he's standing in that earthen wall totem right now on top of the gate, but he's not going to be able to use that for a while here. Gets to the boring plague out, and he's taking a lot of damage. He's going to be forced to use that dispersion right there because of that hammer of justice onto Lontar. Now Mercy being the victim of tab targeting, as we call it over in Europe, and right now he is in that spear. He's going to use the Dark Soul right there, and now Valet as well with that power infusion. Power up Nerd Rage, taking a massive chunk of damage from that Dark Soul and that power infusion, and that is exactly the kind of place we need to see here from Valet. Anytime Mercy's under pressure, he needs to just go and activate those cooldowns, and Mercy needs to do the same for Valet there. Excellent offense.
I like that, coordinating the Power Infusion and Dark Soul together. If they can do that again in 2 minutes, they might just close this out. Tana won't have Ascendance to recover. They're still feeling the pain. Kara has to bubble behind the pillar to the dot damage. Now they need to start worrying about mobility, though. Nerd Rage is in pursuit. Kara's on target. Valet stunned up. This is a huge hit. They bop it immediately, like that reaction. Here, they need to get them away from Valet. Maybe consider using the Door of Shadows now. They've got to get them away. They're still on target. No dispersion. Lone Tar in a stun. Lone Tar in a Hex. This could be the Void Shift for Valet. Still 3 seconds left on that Hex. Double Shadow Fury from Mercy. He should be just spamming Fear in here onto the Red Paladin and get them off the Shadow Priest. They need to get some distance here. Mercy's just focusing on damage. He goes for an offensive Howl of Terror. Kara gonna break it out with the Sanctuary. Here's the Sharpened Blade. Valet's in trouble. He's stunned up again. These Storm Bolts, your health just disappears. Mercy is trying to carry with counter pressure. It's gonna be difficult though. Valet repositioning to the gateway, getting ready. He has it available, maybe waiting for a stun, but needs to use it. How much mobility do they have? Nerd Rage leaps back on target. Kara saved his freedom to sprint Nerd Rage in himself, but that was a nice fear on Kara, stopping him from connecting for a moment. But Lone Tar is stunned. Here comes the Divine Toll potentially. Valet immediately using Disperse. I like this. Kite with the mobility that it grants. Try and get away. Oh, but there's the Spear of Bastion. Where's the Fade? He gets stunned on the Fade. He's stuck behind the pillar. Lone Tar goes for an Avenging Wrath, but this is the final Reckoning Divine Toll. Huge hit damage. Void Shift barely slips through from Valet to stay alive. They just can't get them off of Valet. They're just stuck on target. If Valet doesn't get distance and get away, he's dead.
That was Sacrifice. That was Dispersion. That was Fade. That was everything. Valet's in so much trouble. He uses the Door of Shadows with Aura Mastery, finally able to get a little bit of distance, but I think Oldness Strikes has found their new target. Running after this Void Elf Affliction Warlock hasn't seemed to work out for them too well, but they are just going to attack what they can for now. But once they pull up their mobility, once Avenging Wrath is up, I expect them to once again go after Valet. It seems like he is the best target for them to go after in this matchup, as he's the one that's gone down in their 2 victories. But Oldness Strikes, they just want a moment to breathe. They're going to be hiding behind the pillar, topping themselves off.
Why?
And is everything okay?
Why did Valet power infuse? That was so random. He just powered, like that's the big hit moment. He just pressed it and did nothing because there's no crowd control and no coordination with the Warlock. I don't know why he power infused like that.
Oh, Valet here in a big moment. Blade Storm coming out from Nerd Rage, getting a beautiful damage here. Valet gonna activate the Fade right there, and he's gonna have that Dispersion rotating back up finally, and he might need to use it right away. Takes a lot of damage right now. If Kara can connect here, that could be it. No, Lone Tar gonna respond there with the Blessing of Protection there. And Valet now in a great spot here, and gonna get out some damage. Mercy as well, as beginning to rot everybody down now. Tana in a hand of justice there, and Tana takes a lot of damage. If they can get this mind gamed off, Tana could be in a world of trouble. They silence up Kara there, but Tana activating that Ascendance is going to keep himself alive, going to keep everybody on his team alive. Nice and offensive here. Nerd Rage still looking to build up the pressure. Lone Tar actually getting soloed here on the opposite side by Kara. Now Kara activating the wings. Lone Tar in a Hex. Nice CC chain. Beautiful Reflect there on the Fear on Mercy as well by Nerd Rage, and that's going to net them the Dispersion. Nice plays here from Oldness Strikes.
Valet's getting connected to. He fades, but fades before the spear. He's interrupted. Trying to stabilize here. Caught in a stun. Lone Tar needs to power through this. Divine Toll. Big connect. He got a ringing clarity on that proc. Lone Tar Avenging Wrath. Divine Tolls himself back to full health. Valet still low. He's caught in the spear. Do they have a demonic gateway? They need to get away.
Sacrifice
like
is up.
right now, but Sacrifice is over. Void form. Valet's trying to counter pressure, but there's no crowd control. They damage is not enough against a Ret Paladin. Free healing. They have to be stunned. They have to be silenced. They're just trying to overwhelm them, but you're not going to overwhelm Word of Glory. It's just too much healing. You have to prevent it from happening, and now they've just fully connected. I think that's it. One Divine Favor slips through, buying a couple more seconds. Where's the gate? Valet uses Demonic Gateway. Lone Tar gates. Kara in pursuit. Nerd Rage chasing after. Valet trying to recover. Mercy trying to stop them from chasing down his Shadow Priest, but so difficult to do. Valet is absolutely getting smacked right now. All 3 members right on top of him. He's trying to bait the interrupts, trying to go for a Door of Shadows to escape, but now he's pummeled, and I think I saw this last game where he's going for door over and over.
Oh.
Manages to finally get it. Kiting with that freedom. Valet's got to get out of there.
He does manage to buy himself a little bit of room to breathe, but Nerd Rage does finally reconnect. But Kara, without freedom, unlikely to get there for quite some time. And Mercy's doing a good job. Sets up the double howl and interrupt on Tana. He dispels UA as well. Tana getting bursted down. Needs to retreat back to the safety of the pillar. 10% dampening. Mana relatively even for both these teams, but Valet has bought himself enough time to get that dispersion back, so he's going to be feeling safe. But I don't know for how long. Immediately having to press it on that Spear of Bastion. He is still getting chopped up as well. Tana's in position to dispel the freedom. This is so crucial. If Tana can be there to dispel the freedom.
Oh, God.
To get it. The fade comes in. Nerd Rage and Kara, they just need a little bit more uptime. Lone Star, he trades the sacrifice as well. Full Stormbolt comes in. Valet is absolutely getting decimated. Can they take him down? Oldness strikes. If they drop Valet here, they send Reload Esports out of the tournament. But Valet manages to hold on a little bit longer.
Ooh, big hit here. Valet activating that big damage from the Shadow Priest. He gets the Mind Games here as well. Kara bubbling here just to spam heal Nerd Rage right now. And Kara takes a massive chunk of damage here as well. Valet as well. Nothing left in the tank. 10 seconds left on that fade right there. But finally, Oldness strikes are going to have to go back to the pillar. Kara getting actually interrupted right there by Mercy. And now Nerd Rage leaps in. There's the fear. They have 2 seconds before Valet has that fade right there. And he's going to trinket fade on that Stormbolt. Now they have about a 30-second window, 20 seconds before that void shift is up for Valet. He's mounted with freedom, but there's the spear. Nerd Rage all over him. Kara all over him as well. Here comes the damage. They have nothing to answer this push with. Valet just needs to heal. He needs to survive somehow. Battle Mask comes out. Desperate Prayer comes out. But is it going to be enough? He's on 1%. And Nerd Rage is going to claim victory. Oldness strikes. Gonna send out Reload Esports out of the tournament.
Oh man, Oldness strikes 3-1 versus Reload Esports, but what an intense last game that was. I felt so bad for Valet. They're just not able to get away, not able to finish off any of those casts. And you know, they looked like it was pretty close a few of those times, but in the end, Oldness strikes is going to be the victor here, Super Tees. And what an intense final game of that series.